Hey everyone, welcome back to Attacking Third. US in match day one at the Olympics defeat Zambia 3-0, goals from Rodman and a brace from Swanson. There were some changes that came at the end of the first 45 minutes. Unfortunately, U.S. forward Sophia Smith did go down a bit of a right ankle injury. She was taken off the match and led back into the tunnel. So we had Lynn Williams forward sub on for the U.S. Then there was halftime, the U.S. up 3-0. But Darian, there were a change perhaps that Emma Hayes wasn't expecting to make that early in the match. How did the Swanson Williams sub and the second half looked so different than the first 25, 30 minutes for the US?
These 2 players aren't like for like necessarily. I think Smith likes to check deeper, work on the ball. She likes to turn with a she does really well with pressure on her back and how she's able to turn and connect. Lynn Williams is much more of a direct player, in my opinion. She's a little bit more of a true 9 where she can poach in the box. She's looking for crosses. She had a couple opportunities where I think she could have got a little bit more on it, but it's hard when you come into a match like that, and try to get up to speed that quickly, and really gel with the team who had a lot of chemistry, especially in the first 25 minutes before Sophia Smith had to go out, unfortunately. But they still look dangerous. I think the game plan doesn't fit Williams necessarily to her best strengths. I think if she's going to be the one that's the next in line for the number 9 or she's has that position going forward, there needs to be some sort of adjustment that complements her a little bit more because I don't think that what they were asking her to do is necessarily her biggest strength, but just checking deep, turning defenders. She's much more of a poacher, in my opinion. So I think that's where the drop off happened a little bit. There was a little bit lack of connectivity in the middle to attacking third once that happened. I think we kind of saw that similarly to the subs later in the half. But I do think moving forward, we'll see that adjustment so that the team works to her strengths and everybody else can work off of that because that 9 position is so crucial for the way this women's national team plays.
The way the US do want to play with that 9 is very much almost like a dual 9 with the double player and isolating Rodman. It changes though, depending on who is in that role and who is going to rotate. We also saw another sub at halftime for Emma Hayes, Corbin Albert in for Rose Lavelle, who perhaps on some minute restriction just to keep her healthy. And despite the scoreline, Rose Lavelle being taken out. But ultimately, I want to jump ahead to the 65th minute for this US side because that's when a lot of the subs came in and changed things. Casey Kruger came in, Jenna Nightswanger, and Emily Sonnet taking out Trinity Rodman, Lindsay Horan, and one more. Why can't I think right now off the top of my head? There's another one
They
that came
used
out
all
for
they
us.
used all the subs, all
Exactly. They
5,
used
right?
all of them. I'm like, hold on, I can't think right now. But that changed a lot of the formation and players moving around, Sandra, when all these subs came in. So who changed the game? Who helped kind of dictate play in the second half when the US was losing steam?
Oh, Lisa, you set me up. I don't know. I think I'm gonna keep it real here because I don't know if anyone did out of all the subs. That's something that happens in soccer though, honestly. Like you make those adjustments and sometimes they don't pan out. And I think maybe that's part of that question mark coming out of the game where folks are gonna maybe look at that second half and say, what were the missed opportunities here? And why didn't the subs maybe get more ball or at least get one more in the back of the net for this team? I think there's also an argument to be made to take a look at the subs that were placed in, and I think there's going to be questions around whether or not players were able to take advantage of that opportunity. We had a moment in the ahead of the game where there was an alternate boosted up in Croy Bethune to the bench in light of an injury to Jaden Shaw, and she didn't make it into the match. But when we're thinking about like for like swaps and in player in that very first substitution for Rose Lavelle, they went with Corbin Albert, and I think you have to take a look a little bit at this first game, the opposition that's in front of you, as much respect as we have for Banda and in Zambia on paper in terms of numbers. This was a game that people expected this team to win. And so if you're getting into a game against a team that the expectation is to win and you already have a lead and you're coming in as a substitute, that means that your job is to affect and impact the game. And I don't know if we necessarily saw that in the 45 minutes of Corbin Albert, or maybe the 25 minutes from Emily Sonnet or Jenna Nighswonger. I think a few moments where, they obviously came up big. Darian mentioned a really good one with, with Casey Kruger, coming down the stretch and having covered a lot of ground, and Jenna Nighswonger getting in a position to serve up a ball. But I don't know if I'm looking at any of those particular 5 subs and saying this player came in here and absolutely took over the game and dominated. I don't know if that actually happened. So you saw it too, I think, a little bit in the body language, like Lynn Williams missing a chance, and the fact that there might have been a little bit of frustration there. But I think there's also going to be that silver lining of the fact that they got in there. It's game 1. Let's kick some of that tournament rust off and look ahead to next game.
Ladies, I have a question. If Rose Lavelle is out of a match, so she's on minute restriction, who knows what that means moving forward? This is a player whose health we're always worried about, that muscle tightness or whatever's going on. Do you think we have somebody next up, especially with Shaw being out, that can
No.
fill that same creativity as
Go
a
off,
sub or
Cooper.
a
Don't just
90-minute
say
player?
no.
Absolutely not. And I think that's part of the biggest deficiency with this squad is, and I see you all in the chat. I just want you to know, I see your comments and I see you criticizing Haran and saying she's slow, she's whatever. Here's my take on this, right? The reason that this works is because Haran is more foundational, right? She kind of dictates things. Even when we have coffee behind her, I'd say she's boring, but like good boring, right? Predictable boring. We have Rose, who's the most creative player, and we need her so badly to be that sort of creation point in the midfield for that top line to continue to perform. And I think that works optimally when everybody's healthy. When you have an injured Rose, which God help us, I hope that she is 100% through this tournament. We're working at a significant disadvantage and we do not have another player. And I would say, okay, you could put like a Jaden Shaw in there and see what you can do. But now we have questions about Jaden Shaw. So I'm a little worried.
Lisa, how do you feel
I
about it?
I'm not that worried. I'm not that worried. I think that it will change the way that the US plays, but if Rose Lavelle isn't healthy, there are different players that can slide into that role. Mallory Swanson can drop deeper. We can shift up the formation that the US is playing. So to have more creative players on the field centrally, that includes Swanson. I think Croy Bethune is another really good swap in who, if there are injuries, she can be called up from the alternate position onto the full roster and slot into that type of role to be a creator on the ball. Yes, Christine, there is going to be a ripple down effect if Lavelle isn't there because Haran has to have a bit more creativity on her. Mallory Swanson also has to be a player that can take on a little bit more of that responsibility. And it's not going to be as fluid of a rotation between Lavelle and Swanson then because it's not going to be Lavelle in there. But the US can do it. Emma Hayes has built this roster specifically for that reason. That's why we saw Jenna Nighswonger higher up the pitch when she came on in the 65th minute.
And I do love a high nice walker. I do. She sends beautiful crosses into the box. I love that for us. But all right, maybe I just am a little bit more affectionate toward Rose. And I'm like, no, we need her.
Ooh, Darian, what do you think?
I don't think we have the same like for like. If anyone comes in, I would say Corey Bethune needs to play. I don't think anybody has the same vision or ability to slip passes and kind of buzz around in the same way that Rose does. I mean, they're different players, but I think they have similar qualities. And I think Corey Bethune is somebody that can do that because she just has that fight. We've seen she handles pressure really well. I think she could come in and do it. I mean, she nearly scored on her debut with 7 minutes of playing time. So imagine if she got 30, 60, played a full 90. I think that's a player that we need to keep our eye on, especially with Shaw being out. That's somebody that I think can fill in and be that creative piece because I don't think Albert, yes, she's a great sub. I think she has great work rate. She brings qualities that are good more so defensively. We need somebody that allows the front line of the US, which is our biggest strength, to be free and not worry so much about coming back or have to overwork that takes them away from those dangerous positions. So I would love to see Croy get some minutes in this tournament. If that's the sub for Rose, I think that's the match.
Potential. She was on the 18 for this roster. However, US being up 3-0 at halftime, Hayes might have wanted to shift a bit more defensive and make sure that that's not happening, but you're also going up against a Zambian side with only 10. Oh, it's a sticky situation. However, I do think we will see Croy at some point in this tournament.